Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning. It's Man Big T back on Talent Talks, and we're doing another podcast episode. And today, I got some information. On unvoiced expectations. And I'm sure we all have those at some point in time throughout our lifetime, multiple times. So, let's get into it. Unvoiced expectations, what are they? Unvoiced expectations are the assumptions, desires, or standards that people hold but do not communicate to others. That's the biggest flaw right there. They often arise from personal beliefs, past experiences, or cultural norms and can influence how we think others should behave without ever clearly expressing these thoughts. Yes, that's one of the things I work on the most, I think. And the thing that keeps me in check was a quote from an individual, and they said, "Quit expecting you from other people." And that kind of just brought me right back to neutral, which is very good. Okay. In relationships, whether personal or professional, unvoiced expectations can lead to misunderstandings, frustration, or even resentment if people fail to meet them. For example, personal relationships, a partner may expect affection or certain gestures, believing the other person should just know their desires. This can lead to disappointment when those unspoken needs aren't met. Work settings. A manager might assume an employee should work overtime when necessary without explicitly stating it, leading to frustration on both sides if the employee doesn't stay late. Bringing expectations into the open often helps people align more effectively, ensuring that actions and desires are more likely to be met in a way that respects everyone's needs. And then I said, how does having these disrupt work environments, friendships, and relationships? And the reply, unvoiced expectations can subtly disrupt work environments, friendships, and relationships by creating misunderstandings, misaligned priorities, and unmet needs. Here's how. In work environments, A, misunderstandings. When team members or managers assume others know their expectations, tasks may go undone, deadlines may be missed, or the quality of work may suffer. This leads to frustration, reduced productivity, and an environment where employees feel they're always falling short. Inconsistent standards. Unspoken expectations often mean that some people know what's expected while others don't. This can lead to perceived favoritism or inconsistency eroding trust within the team. Burnout. Employees may sense that more is expected of them but are unsure of the details. This lack of clarity can lead to stress, burnout, or even resentment, especially when it seems like extra effort isn't acknowledged or rewarded. Number 2, in friendships. A, resentment. Unvoiced expectations in friendships, like expecting a friend to check in regularly or attend events, can lead to disappointment when those expectations aren't met. Over time, these unmet needs can build up resentment, even if the other person was unaware of them. And that's usually most likely the case, right? Because they're unvoiced. My biggest thing is, how do you bring up expectations in a way that's respectful when most of the time, or some of the time, depending on who you're talking to, obviously, defensiveness is always the first instinct. Right? Why are you expecting this out of me? Say in a work environment. Why are you expecting me? What about them? What about them? What about them? What about them? Right? That type of thing. Okay. Assumptions of priority. A friend might assume they are a high priority to the other person, expecting certain acts of loyalty or support. When these expectations are not met, they may feel undervalued or unsupported. C, emotional distance. Consistently feeling misunderstood can create distance, with both people feeling that the other isn't as invested in the friendship. In romantic relationships, feelings of rejection. Unmet, unspoken expectations like wanting more affection or quality time can feel like personal rejection, even if the partner is unaware. This often leads to hurt feelings, passive aggressiveness, or arguments. Erosion of intimacy. Without open communication, partners may start to feel disconnected, assuming the other should just know their needs. This assumption erodes intimacy and makes partners feel unimportant. C. Conflicts and misinterpretations. Unspoken expectations are often based on personal values or past relationship models, leading to conflicts that can seem confusing to the other person. For example, if one partner assumes they'll handle all finances without discussing it, the other might feel ignored or underappreciated. In all cases, unvoiced expectations create a breeding ground for confusion, resentment, and dissatisfaction. Open communication and clarification of needs go a long way in preventing these disruptions, fostering healthier and more resilient relationships in all areas of life. So there's another section. So communicate, right? Communicate. But why don't we communicate? Why don't we communicate? I think for me, one of the biggest things is the fear of the response of the other person, right? If you go on voicing certain things, like I mentioned prior, is we don't necessarily know how the other person is going to respond. So just talking out loud, I think the biggest thing is when it comes to that is knowing who you're talking to and the relationship that you have with them. If you have a solid working relationship with the individual, you know how they respond to certain requests or demands or whatever you want to call it. Taking that into account and understanding that their response will come from an area of understanding, hopefully. So yeah, and that's something I work on all the time. Okay, so and then I asked them to give us examples or scenarios. So and then here are examples of unvoiced expectations disrupting each type of relationship. So in the work environment, example, a project manager expects their team to be available after hours for questions or quick updates, but never communicates this expectation. Some team members notice the manager messaging late at night and feel pressured to respond immediately, while others don't respond, believing their work hours end at 5 p.m. Impact. The manager grows frustrated with those who don't respond, thinking they lack dedication, while those who do respond start feeling overworked and resentful. The team's morale declines and productivity suffers due to misalignment on work expectations. Number 2, friendship. Example, Sarah expects her best friend Emma to remember her birthday every year and make time to celebrate. This year, Emma has been overwhelmed with work and forgets to reach out on Sarah's birthday. Sarah is hurt and feels Emma doesn't care about her as much as she does, but she doesn't tell Emma why she's upset. Impact. Instead of talking about her feelings, Sarah becomes distant, causing tension in the friendship. Emma feels confused about Sarah's sudden coolness and assumes something is wrong with her. This unspoken hurt starts driving a wedge between them, even though it could be cleared up with a conversation. Romantic relationships. Example, John has always been taught that his partner should handle most of the household chores, and he expects his wife, Lily, to do so without ever discussing it. Meanwhile, Lily believes that household responsibilities should be equally shared. Especially since they both work full-time. Over time, John becomes annoyed when chores aren't done, and Lily feels overburdened. Impact. Lily grows resentful, feeling that John doesn't appreciate her efforts or respect her time. Meanwhile, John feels unacknowledged for what he believes he does contribute. This unspoken expectation results in frequent arguments, feelings of disrespect, and a growing emotional distance that strains the relationship. In each of these examples, openly discussing these expectations and finding a compromise could prevent the miscommunication and help each party feel valued and understood. And I said, what is the best way to eliminate these type of expectations? ChatGPT Says eliminating unvoiced expectations takes intentional communication, self-awareness, and openness. Here are some of the most effective ways to address and reduce these hidden expectations. Practice open communication. Be clear and direct. Regularly express your needs, preferences, and assumptions openly, even if they seem obvious to you. Avoid hints or vague cues that others may misinterpret. Use I statements. Frame requests and needs in terms of your own experiences. Example, I feel supported when we divide chores instead of you never help around the house. This makes it easier for others to understand your needs without feeling blamed. So, wording is very important, obviously. Change the wording. Number 2, regular check-ins. Set up routine conversations. In a work setting, team meetings or one-on-ones can be used to clarify roles, expectations, and goals. In personal relationships, regularly check-ins, weekly or monthly, help people stay aligned. Ask for feedback. Actively encourage others to share their own expectations and feelings. Questions like, is there anything I could do differently to support you? Invite others to communicate their needs openly. Identity and challenge assumptions. Reflect on your own expectations. Take the time to examine whether certain beliefs or habits are creating unspoken rules in your mind. Ask yourself if the expectation is realistic and if you've clearly communicated it. Challenge assumptions. Sometimes unspoken expectations are based on assumptions. Example, if they care, they'll know what I need. Replace this with a healthier habit of discussing needs directly. Number 4, build a habit of asking rather than assuming. Ask questions. Get into the habit of asking questions about other preferences and needs instead of assuming you know them. Questions like, how do you see this task being handled? Or what would make you feel supported helps eliminate guesswork. Encourage others to speak up. If you're a leader or in a relationship, create an environment where people feel comfortable voicing their needs without judgment. Set up clear agreements. Make mutual agreements. Once needs are shared, come to clear agreements so each person knows what's expected. For example, in a work setting, this might mean creating a project charter. In a relationship, it might mean defining roles and responsibilities around household chores. Revisit and adjust as needed. Regularly revisit these agreements as needs and situations can change. Staying flexible and adjusting as necessary helps prevent future frustration. Number 6, cultivate emotional awareness and empathy. Stay attuned to emotions. When you start feeling frustrated or disappointed, pause and ask yourself if the feeling might be due to an unspoken expectation. This awareness helps you decide whether a conversation is needed. Practice empathy. Remember that others may have different experiences and expectations. Practicing empathy helps you approach situations from their perspective, making it easier to discuss needs without judgment. By consciously fostering transparency, flexibility, and a proactive approach to communication, you can reduce misunderstandings, encourage trust, and strengthen relationships across all areas of life. So there you go. Unvoiced expectations. I'm sure we all have them. It's one of those things, and I don't know why, but we tend to expect the work that we do from others, but those others are not us. And that's why I refer to that one quote, quit expecting you from other people, which helps kind of put you back in the neutral zone, and you stop expecting things from individuals that they should just know or whatever it may be. So, thank you very much for listening. And until we thank you very much for listening. I am very grateful and appreciative of all your support, and thank you for tuning in. So, you guys are the reason why I do this, and I have fun. I like being on camera too. That helps. Sometimes I make jokes, sometimes I don't. That's why you got to tune in, because you never know when I'm going to make a joke. So you're going to have to watch all the episodes, because you never know. I might make one joke, make you laugh. Okay, catch you at the next one. Cheers.